Hi, friends. Welcome back. You're here again with Dawn, and today's guest is Jenn Kautsch. She is the founder of the Sis Community, and we're going to find out all about her journey to sobriety. If you've been listening to me for longer than a minute, you know I've been sober now for 19 months. 19 months after, like, I'm 59, and I managed to have my first drink at 9. So there was a lot of years of using alcohol for me and varying reasons. But I do feel like, and Jenn, you can give me your take on it, but I feel like women use alcohol for way different reasons than men do.
Well,
Um,
absolutely.
but go ahead now, Jenn. I'm sending it over to you to introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, thanks, Dawn. So, like Dawn said, I am Jen. I'm 49, so I'm about to turn 50 this summer. The big 50. I can kick, I can stretch. Um, and so, yep, turning 50, and I'm kind of in a new life stage. I've got two children in their 20s, married. They're not married. I'm married. They're still not married. And yeah, so I'm in this new season of my life and really renegotiated my relationship with alcohol right around 4 years ago when my daughter was graduating high school. I thought, well, she's getting to change tracks. She's getting a new spring in her step and getting to make some just new direction choices in her life. Why don't I do the same? Why don't I take this as an opportunity to kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit because I don't necessarily like all the ways that it's been going. And so that's what I did right before I turned 46. I thought, I want to show up at 50 different than I did 40. And here I am embarking on almost 50. And I've been working really hard these last 4 years to become more sober minded, more present, more awake, more alert in my own life, and just be the best version of myself. And so that's what I do is I help other women do the same thing, whether that's being alcohol free completely or just getting back in the driver's seat to become more wholehearted so that they can feel like they're not walking around as two different people, which is how I felt for the
Oh,
longest.
totally. I totally resonate with that. But I love that it's not an all or nothing with you.
Yeah.
um, because while my journey through alcohol was a very long one, and it was a love hate relationship for sure. Have also had a history of stopping when it was important, right?
Yeah.
Like when my mother was dying, I was like, I need to be present.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
I don't want the regret of, I can go through whatever I need to go through on the other side of it, but right now, while she's still here, I need to be here.
Yeah.
Getting pregnant when I wanted to get pregnant, so I stopped, and then all the way through while he was breastfeeding until he was done breastfeeding, and then I went back to alcohol.
Right.
When my late husband was diagnosed, I was like, oh, that's the last drink I'll take today
Yeah.
till I'm on the other side of this. So I knew it wasn't about not having control. It was
Hmm.
about where I chose to give control over
Right.
my life.
Yeah.
Um, and on the other side of it, it really is about I I say now a lot and anything can happen, but I can't think of a good reason or a situation that will ever make me take another drink.
Yes, Dawn, I'm right there with you because I really didn't set out to be completely alcohol free when I first began my journey of becoming more mindful, learning more about the science of alcohol, the actual industry of alcohol. I feel like we've been duped.
Totally.
And I'd love to. I know you and I kind of spoke about that before we hit record, and I'm excited to talk about that more. But I think learning that felt actually really empowering to me instead of looking at alcohol like it's a taboo topic or it's so stigmatized, unfortunately, among women, especially. Also, a lot of moms really struggle with drinking. COVID just like poured gasoline on a burning fire. But there's a stigma to saying, I think I'm drinking a little bit more than I should or that I want to, or it's just so not aligning with me. I kind of become a different person and that's not really who I am. And so I think normalizing talking about alcohol and learning about it in a more curious way than a labeling, black and white, all or nothing, good or bad, you're good or bad. No, you're great. Alcohol is an addictive substance. And so, it affects people differently, but at the end of the day, kind of looking behind the veil and seeing it for what it is helped me feel like, oh, okay, now I can make a more educated choice. And I really,
Right.
like you just said, Don, which I love, I just don't see a reason to bring it back in.
Right.
I can drink what I want when I want. I
Right.
don't see a reason to bring it back in.
Right. Because once I had, um, because there wasn't an event wrapped around it really this
Yeah.
time. It was different that, you notice the first things like, wow, I wake up, I'm awake. Right? I
Right.
don't spend half the day. I'm not talking about being tragically hungover, but just not really 100% like awake for
Yeah.
most of the day, right?
Right.
And then there were those realizations of what time is it? How long till 5 o'clock?
Oh, totally. The countdown, because it's totally socially acceptable to drink 5 o'clock or after, 9 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Oh, it's a totally different ballgame to be like, oh, a day drinker, which again, socially speaking, if you're out and about, that's
Correct.
socially acceptable. But if you're at home alone, oh, that would definitely be negative behavior. So it's so funny how in our society, how we put so many rules around alcohol to
Correct.
justify it. And
Correct.
and then the flip side of that is it's the only, I'm going to go ahead and bust out and call it a drug, even though I'm not a prohibitionist, but it's the only drug you have to justify not taking.
Correct.
And
I feel there's a bigger stigma about not talking about why you're sober than
yeah,
there
right.
is
Like,
about
what
talking
happened?
about
Well, nothing.
why are you drinking so much,
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally get that. Totally
Yep.
get that.
And wine o'clock is turned into why not o'clock
Exactly.
for a lot of
People.
people.
Exactly. And all the memes and all the messaging and marketing to women. I've looked into this a little bit deeper. And about 15 years ago, the alcohol industry, really looked across a broad spectrum of their market. It's a big business, it's a $46 billion a year business. So they looked out of the landscape and they really said, like any good business would, where are we falling short? Where do we need to up the ante with our consumer sales? And they really looked out and they said, oh, we got it. Women, particularly working women and working moms. Oh, we got that with the networking and the kind of that glamorized skinny girl brand and all the kind of, you can be healthy and be this big drinker too. We're going to market it to me time, my time, mommy
Right.
juice.
Right. Like having the wine is your affirmation that I'm not just a mom. Like I'm
Right.
also an adult woman.
That's right. Oh, totally. What the messaging is like, work hard during the day, give to your children, be an empath, nurture. Oh, and then at night, by all means, kick your feet up. Now it's your turn. It's your time. And alcohol has really been marketed, it's the product's product.
Right.
The product is alcohol, but that's not what they're marketing. They're marketing the lifestyle
Correct.
of what they say alcohol will bring you. And they are promising women, moms, and all people of all kinds. I mean, I just watched the Super Bowl probably like you did. And if you start looking at commercials, you see they're never actually advertising the actual product. It's always about the lifestyle.
Absolutely.
And yeah, yeah. So it's fascinating to kind of look at it in a different lens.
Right. And that study you talked about, where they looked out at the landscape, I must have read the same one recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they also parallel it to how the tobacco industry normalized and targeted people to
Right.
blow open theirs. Like, it's not as much anymore. And when it happens, we talk about it, people smoking in movies. But the tobacco industry actually went into Hollywood and taught them
Wow. Yeah.
how to like it will bring us air of sophistication. There's
Like,
so
this
many
is
things you
how
can
we're gonna do
translate
that.
without a word while somebody's having a cigarette. Are they
Right.
thinking? They're problem solving, or they're this, they're that. And
Yes,
Hollywood took it and ran with it, and
yes.
suddenly Hollywood was doing their advertising for them
Yep, and making
for
it cool
free.
and acceptable
Yep.
and almost kinda edgy in a way that makes you kinda wanna show that you're edgy too. How can you do that? Well, pick this up, it's kinda
Right.
yeah.
So you
I
could parallel that with Sex in the City.
Oh, great example.
Right? Cosmos. How many of us were drinking? Oh, we have to have the pretty pink drink now.
Totally. And just yeah, that, Ajali woman, I can fry it up in a pan. I can walk in and command a room and I can hang with the guys.
Oh
I
my
can do
God,
a
yes.
business deal at the bar, at the
Right.
networking. And actually that's when I really started drinking. My story's a little bit different than yours in the sense that you started out really young. Most people start out younger than me, that's for sure. I was, Dawn, this may kind of blow your mind, but I was actually in my young 30s
Oh,
when I really started
wow.
drinking on any kind of consistent basis. I was
Wow.
not a drinker party girl in high school or college, and I went to a state college and was in a sorority and was not a drinker. Quite honestly, and you'd have to know more about my personality, but I'm a little bit of a rule follower when the rules make sense to me, not any rule. If it's a dumb rule, I can't wait to break it. I'm not going to, there's a lot of rules in the world that I just so disagree with. I can't wait to break them or find a way to hack them. But if it makes sense, if it's a good rule, like to protect me or to provide good things for me, I- I'm kind of wanting to do that. So I actually was that, and I was modeled that growing up. I did have teetotaling parents. So I do think that that certainly made a difference on my life, which was not my doing. And I can't take any
Right.
credit for it or act superior about that because it's just how I grew up. So I grew up with parents that didn't drink and modeled for me that that was normal. And then I also had a lot of friends that didn't drink. So the people I was literally surrounded with, that wasn't our activity. Certainly we were around people that were drinking, but back in the 80s where I grew up and, kind of more conservative, top of Texas, it was more socially acceptable back then to be a drinker, be a non-drinker. You had your jocks, your partiers, it seemed like back in the 80s, everybody was a lot more in these little cliques and people groups and drinking was not as far spread as it is today and in the adult world. So there I was, a young working mom, kids already, on the ground, been married a while. And I found myself in a network marketing company and doing the happy hours in hotel lobbies during the week. Hey, it's a Tuesday. What are you doing? I don't know. What are you doing? I'm at a hotel lobby. And, I just started out just kind of casually drinking. But honestly, I'll be totally honest and say when I did start drinking, the effects were incredible. Like I was just blown away at how relaxed I felt, how the mental chatter in my mind died down, a lot of my social anxiety, which really, quite
Yep.
honestly, I didn't have a whole lot of because I've been practicing not having alcohol in my life to be able to be social. But when under stress with a job, that's when alcohol kind of met me right where I was, which was tightly coiled, wound up tight. And it just went, ah. And so I immediately didn't like the taste. I had to work up to a little bit of acquiring a taste. Don't worry. I caught up. I caught right up with everybody else. So in my 30s, which again, I know is very different than a lot of people's stories, but it's also more common than I thought. I thought literally I was the only one. And y'all, we're never the only one, ever.
Right.
It's always somebody else is like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe she's saying my story right now. Yeah, I became a drinker in my 30s. And so that's what I did is I spent my 30s catching up, learning the rules, kind of the tricks of the trade, kind of what to order when, not to drink too fast, how to avoid those epic fails, which sometimes I could, sometimes I couldn't. But it was more from a place of being naive, not from a place of intention. I was never trying to overdo it. I actually started out as a drinker that always tried to moderate drinking. There was never a time that I was a drinker that was like, woo. let's really tear it up and go for it. I was already a married working mom, so that wasn't my persona and it wasn't my goal. But inside, that's how it felt like, oh, freedom, here I go. But I'll control it on the outside because I don't look like I like it too much. That's too exciting. So I'm going to be a good girl and be doing my thing during the day. And 1 o'clock, is it time? And it was my reward. So that was me in my 30s. And then it was in my young 40s that my, little kids that couldn't really hurt my feelings because they were too little turned into teenagers. And that's where I found just the heat in my life ratcheted up, just turned up. And also drinking turned up to meet a lot of that anxiety, helplessness, boredom, loneliness. As a married mom, it can be lonely still. And that's when I found that drinking was kind of my pseudo companion and kind of my little social friend, and something, again, an activity with my husband, beer tastings, wine tours,
Yep.
date nights,
Yep.
IPAs, crafts, all, we really got into it. And so, I could deal with hard things because I always knew I had that as the back door. And it was really robbing my resilience. And I know that's a topic that you like to talk about a lot. Me too. And that's what drinking was not telling me at the beginning, was that, oh, you can have me, but it's going to cost you. It's going to
Right.
cost you dearly. It's going to cost you your self-respect at times, your belief in yourself, and it's going to cost you your resilience because now you're outsourcing your ability to do hard things to also having a drink in tow. And I believed it. And then after a while, I kind of knew better. That was kind of what was unique about my story is I had a big contrast, huge contrast, like, oh, this is not great. This is not the way I want to go. But I also didn't quite know how to get myself out of the pitcher plant that I was going further deeper in. I
Right.
felt very fortunate that I did get an early exit off the drinking highway because nothing bad happened. I never got a DUI. I didn't hit rock bottom. I could quit on my own. Physically, I wasn't addicted, to the point that I couldn't make that choice, much like you talked about. But the mental, the emotional love affair really that I had with drinking was pretty strong in a short
Oh,
amount of time.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it only
that's
took me about 15 years all in
that's
to get
that's
in
the
and
way I
out.
used to talk about it. I'd be like, "I love my alcohol." Like, "Oh my god, it's a thing." And
Yeah.
because it didn't stop, I didn't hit rock bottom either.
Hmm.
And like it didn't alter my life drastically in any way to go stop. It
Yeah.
what I so for like the last 15 years of my drinking, I was saying, if it ever comes down to, life and death and drinking, like I'm going to choose life. Right. If it
Right.
affects my health in a detrimental way, that's when I'll stop. Until then, me and alcohol were really good friends and we'll be over here. Um, and that's what happened. I had a medical for a life insurance policy, a new life insurance policy,
Mhm.
and I have a lot of background in the health field. And I when I was able to go in and read my labs, I did. It was a Sunday. It was July 29th, 2019, and I printed them out and I started looking at them and I went, "Oh my god. Oh my god." And
Yeah.
I went, "I've got fatty liver."
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And
You can see
I
that.
walked from my office to the other end of the house and I put the paperwork down on the counter and I looked at my husband and I said, "I'm done drinking."
Wow. That's incredible. That's really cool. After
It's
almost 50 years of drinking.
right.
Seriously, that's
Right.
incredible. Kudos to you. That's awesome.
But there was
You
and
can
that's always
figure
been
that
a
one
very clear line for me. I want to be around.
Yeah, yeah.
And my husband, I will say to his credit, goes, "Well, what's happening?" I said, "But I said,
What's
I'll
happening?
yeah, what's happening?" I was like, "Well, I've gone through my labs and I'll go to the doctor and have it confirmed, but I'm pretty sure I have fatty liver. And it's not due
Now, is
to."
he a drinker as well? Was it
He
something that y'all
stopped
did
the same
together?
day.
Oh, he did.
He said,
Wow.
"I don't need to drink either. I'll stop with you."
Wow, Dawn.
Right.
That's a real gift right there.
Oh, yeah. I am
For
ever
sure. That's a
thankful.
gift.
I am ever thankful because it would not have, and it was hard in the beginning,
Yeah. Because you
right?
you could have done it on your own. It would have been very difficult.
Yes.
but
Yes. But it was, this was the only time that it really was the end. I had stopped before, like we talked about,
right.
when my mother was dying, when I was trying to get pregnant, while I was breastfeeding, while my husband was dying. Um,
Sounds like all those other times you were doing it for somebody else or for something outside of you versus this time it was like for Dawn, for
right,
your health, for you.
right. And that's not something I knew that it was all or nothing now.
Right.
Right? Because I
Right.
knew that if I went back to drinking, it wasn't going to be different.
Right.
It
No.
was going to be the same. I'd use it for all the same reasons. And it wasn't until I was on the other side of it, I didn't know until I stopped drinking this last time that I had severe social anxiety.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't realize what was really going on because we were drinking. Yeah. I still, here I am for almost 4 years alcohol free and living this, present, sober minded life. And my issues are just more clear than ever. They didn't
Right.
go away. I can just actually see them better. And they have diminished a lot. A lot of actually, while we're recording this, because I know people may listen or see it another time, but right now, I'm in Texas. We're in a major snowstorm, power outages out everywhere. I've got family living with us right now because their power's out. And I'm doing a 7-day probiotic gut cleanse, and I'm on day 3. So I got a lot going on over here. And, I bring all that up to say, rewind the tape back a few years. This would have been a free pass, a ticket to stock up,
Right.
load up, and it's very clear to me now, even areas that I can grow in because I don't want to be enslaved by anything. I want to be able to roll through my life with freedom and not depend on my control, my routine, my circumstances, a substance, anything. And I'm still really growing in that area because I'm being pushed and pressed right now.
Right.
As
Right.
we
And
speak,
yes.
I'm
I
feeling the pressing, and that's a good thing.
Right. Right. And I hear that. I hear that so hard because, like, oh, a snowstorm. Yep. I just went out and did my emergency snowstorm shopping, and it didn't include milk, bread, or, eggs
Right.
and butter. It included vodka, wine.
Right. The staples. Everything
Right.
else is just
Right.
it'll work out. Yeah.
And in the beginning, it was, coming up against the social anxiety and stuff. It was frightening. Like, how do I
Yeah.
do this now? But once you do start handling it and figuring it out, it is so empowering.
Very, very much so. And your story's really cool because you did start drinking at such a young age. You're really rediscovering who you really are. I'm kind of going back to who I was maybe in my young 20s. I'm almost feeling that way as I'm turning 50. So that was my goal. But I'm feeling like I'm getting back to that girl who was just a little bit more confident and free. And really, that's who you are too. That's who you've always been. But life's hard. Life knocks you down and throws you some real curveballs. Sounds like you've definitely been through some fire and trial. And now you're really getting to see what you're made of and who you really are, and that
Right.
you've had it all along. It's like
Right.
click the little red heels. You've had it all along. You've always been able to be this Dawn,
Right. But
be
I
this
never
person.
allowed myself to be.
Yeah, this is really who you are.
Right, right. And I didn't start, drinking at 9 just because, I was bored. I came from an alcoholic family.
Sure.
And that first beer was hard won. We were at a cousin's high school graduation party, and I knew my father. I could gauge when I could approach him on something where, he didn't want to talk to me. So
Uh,
give her what she wants. And I needled him,
sure. And
until he
as a
gave it to
kid, yeah,
me.
just how to read people and just your development of just when's a good time, when's not a good time, how to read body language, which is actually a really great skill to have.
Right, right. When you're sober,
Yeah, right. When you can use it.
effectively.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. That's so
So
true.
this community that you've created, um, tell me when in your journey did you decide to share this like this?
Yeah. So this is a really kind of cool part of my story because I never set out to do this. It wasn't something, again, I'm that later in life drinker. So the fact that I'm AKA, sober sis was not even a part of my identity to be sober for a long time because I wasn't even a drinker. So this has gone a really full circle moment for me, to have started sober sis about 8 months into my journey. I had stopped drinking in April of 2017, did birthday, 4th of July, the beach trip, all the things, all the holidays. So effectively speaking, it felt like a year because I'd done pretty much a calendar year of all of my events and things. And I looked at my husband on December 25th, 2017, and I said, babe, I just feel like if even my local friends, my drinking buddies, my girls' night out group, even if they knew just a fraction of what I've been learning for the past 8 months, because I kind of switched addictions, if you will. I kind of went from drinking to learning about drinking. So I became the girl that was reading all the books, all the podcasts. I was just filling my mind with so much information. I was about to explode and almost wanted to evangelize this awesome, AF lifestyle, but kind of didn't know how to do that. So I thought, well, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to, I love Jesus. I don't want to be a Bible beater. I love not drinking alcohol, but I don't want to be the alcohol police. So, writing that line where I can still be me, but really allow other people to be themselves at the same time, because I want that. And so I really thought, how could I package this where people who weren't interested could come find out, kind of me curating the best of what I've found that has worked for me. I'm just really the girl next door. I'm an average person and I wanted to stop drinking, didn't know how. I figured out how. And if I could help other women get to a lot of those resources and tools in one place so that they don't have to go read 50 books and listen to 800 podcasts, if I could put that in more of a concise way, like a 21-day boot camp of like, learn everything you can about alcohol. Don't worry about quitting, focus on learning. And if I could put that into 21 days, which is kind of a great time frame because it's not even a month. It's like the 21-90 rule, 21 days to break or change a habit,
Yep.
90 days to create a new lifestyle. So I thought I just want to help women break the habit of that autopilot, mindless drinking. It's what I do. I don't know how to get out of the rut. If I could meet them there, that's kind of where I started. Then that's what I want to do. So I started Sober Sis, really short for sober minded sisters, because I love this aspect of being sober minded. I'm certainly a sober person because I'm not drinking alcohol or using mind altering substances. But the word sober to me can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different
Yeah.
people. And I really like the terminology, if you will, sober minded, because it brings in this level of not about what you're not doing,
Right.
but more about what it is you are doing. And so if
Right.
I'm sober minded, then I'm more focused on being present and awake and alert and aware in my own life. What can I bring to the table now that I don't have this weight on my back or this dulling on me? Now I can be sober minded. And so that was also kind of the angle I took, which was a little bit differentiating for me in the vast sober community of so many wonderful coaches and leaders and authors. Was I wanted to be someone that was talking more about sober minded, wholehearted living, and maybe where alcohol could fit into that, or if it does at all. And so I do have that approach of just come on in. If you want a place where you can renegotiate your relationship with alcohol without having to have a label, any judgment, any shame, there's no shame in this game, and no rules like day one back for you. You slipped up, back to day one. It's more about, is it one day or day one? What did you learn from it? And so a lot of our philosophy, I guess you could say, as a tribe is, progress over perfection. Because I think a lot of us drink as perfectionists because we're trying
Yes.
so hard to keep it all together that if we do that with drinking, it just adds pressure and more performance oriented anxiety of like, well, so I like to engage women just to say, hey, come on in. Let me share with you what I've learned, but let's do it in the context of community and connection so that you're not alone. And so that's another big differentiator. of what Sober Sis has become over time, which did not start out this way. Remember, it just started with me wanting to share with some of my local friends. And from there, it grew. And I just started getting my message out more. And in doing so, I just threw the net out a little bit wider. And I didn't realize how many women would jump in, like, oh, she's saying gray area drinker. Whoa, people love that word, who are kind of where you and I were maybe with drinking. I don't know that alcoholic addiction recovery would have caught my attention like sober curious, gray area drinking,
Right.
tap the brakes. I was like, okay, I like that. That feels like a good entry place for me.
I think it is for women, full stop, because then it's, well, you can come in and you can make an educated choice.
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
choose to still keep drinking and nobody's going to be mad at you.
yeah.
Like
It's
this,
your
that's your
journey.
choice. And I really don't think like the Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't think it speaks to women.
Yeah, it's got its place out there, and I know it was created, by men in the 30s. And some aspects of it are definitely antiquated. I think what works about AA for people is the community aspect.
Right.
And for a lot of people that don't find out about something like Sober Sis, it's like so well known. It's like a beacon in the night, like everybody knows. So, again, I do know that it's worked for people, but I think it's also not worked for a lot of people for
Well,
that very
it
reason.
I don't know that it has the same applications as like what you're doing, because like I'm
Yeah.
not going to walk into AA and go, "Oh, I understand you all have big problems. I'm just trying to figure out if how to manage, my social drinking." They're going to
Yeah,
be like, "Yeah,
tolerate. They'd be like,
the
not,
bar is the bar's that
yeah,
way,
not okay
lady."
here. Yeah.
Right. So there hasn't been a place.
Yeah. So this is kind of that middle ground where, I have landed on this alcohol free version of myself and I love it. And like you said, I just can't see a reason to bring alcohol back in. Because when I play the movie forward and I say, oh, I'm just going to have a glass, or, oh, I'm just going to drink on this trip, it's not about that glass or that trip. It's about what it opens up for me when there is no trip and I'm at home alone or cooking in my kitchen or in a fight with my husband or my kids are stressing me out. That's where I'm like, ooh, if I open the door back in, now I've said, alcohol, you can come in pretty much anytime. And
Correct.
that won't work for me.
Right. I'm right there with you on
It's
that.
just not going to work for me.
Yeah, it's it's like not even a thought process anymore. I'm
Yeah.
like,
I'm
don't
like,
even play
yeah,
that
it's just
game
not
with
going to take me
yourself.
anyplace good. It's not going to take
No,
me any place I want to go.
no, give me 3 months. I'll be right back where I was.
Yeah,
I
exactly, and
know
give
that
me time. Like you said,
100%.
it would take some time, but I've started many times like you as well, and it always ended up taking me back where I had been. If not, maybe a tad lower every time.
Oh,
Just a tad
absolutely.
lower,
Yeah.
where I'm not even getting back to where I was. I'm going down a notch. And then the shame and the guilt and the defeat and the I cannot believe I'm here again. I cannot believe I drank a bottle of wine again on my own in a given evening. I was just going to have a glass. What happened? And now I understand. Now I,
Right. And then there's the games we play about like putting the barometer against other things to go, "Oh, see, I'm not that bad."
oh, right. There's
Because it
always
was
that. Right.
right, yeah. Like I went on a trip to California to meet and stay with a woman I had met online, um, back 15 years ago, and that pack of women, man, they made me look like a lightweight. And I came home, I was like, I don't have a problem with alcohol.
You're like,
That's
I'm
what I
good.
learned from that.
If
That's what I.
that's the standard or the litmus test, I am golden. No, I felt that way many times as well. I could always look and say, oh, I can wait till 5. Oh, I'm
Right.
just drinking wine, not the hard stuff, although, I would if it was available. So yeah, there was always a way to kind of make my drinking seem okay. But
Right. It's
deep
such a game
down,
we play with ourselves.
I knew I was lying to myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that I think is the greatest gift of my sobriety, is that I can't lie to myself
That's
anymore.
right. That's right. Straight up. You have to keep it real with yourself
Right.
and really repair that relationship with yourself. I've had to rebuild some self-trust and some like, Jen, look at yourself, girl. You can do this.
Right.
And, even doing this little 7-day cleanse that I'm in right now. I was just talking to some gals in Sober Sis saying, I'm, recently pressed right now where I haven't been pressed like this in a while because I've been alcohol free, but to do this cleanse right now with no coffee. So no caffeine, no sugar, no gluten, no dairy, no eggs, no cheese, like no, all the stuff that I eat. I'm like, well, I don't do alcohol, but I do everything else like that. And so, it's really helped me see that I can't do this because I should. I need to do this because I must. And there's such a difference. And I definitely felt that way with drinking. I'm trying to get there with this gut cleanse because I'm like, oh, I should do that. I don't know that I'm feeling it as I must like I did about drinking, but that's
Right.
what worked for me with drinking is I made a commitment to myself. And I just said, Jen, if you drink again, it's not today. It's not if, it's when. You're going to go back to where you've been and just you're going to be in that moment where you had that morning or that 3 a.m. wake up call where you're just going, I did it again. What
Yeah,
a
that was
loser.
right. That's
And
the worst feeling, opening your eyes, and that's your first thought.
yeah, it's rough.
It
It's very
is.
lonely and very defeating. So I thought, you know what? I must keep going forward in this AF lifestyle. I must keep going forward sans the alcohol because I must not go back to where I've been. And I'm really being pulled towards a vision that's way more exciting than where I was there. Way better. Way harder though sometimes.
Yes.
But
Yes. Yeah, I would love for everybody to understand just because I'm sober now and I'm confronting all the things does not mean it's easy
I
at
know.
all. At all. It's just when you confront them, you're really confronting them.
Yep.
You're not casually confronting them and then going back to your behavior, of dulling that down again, I guess would be the biggest thing. So what is your continued vision for your community?
Yeah.
What is on the horizon for the growth for that?
Yeah, it's very exciting. So when women come into SoberSys, they usually start with the 21-day reset. And then they can stay connected in our group. It's not like 21 days, you're in, you're out. It's a real ongoing sisterhood of support. And then I also have a 10-week online course after the 21 days. And that's where I really drill down into the pillars of alcohol free living and what it takes, like working on boundaries, what self care really is, how to handle obstacles, how to feel the feels. I've got my feelings wheel back there. And that's where I really bring it more away from alcohol and more into everything that's left when you remove alcohol, the why we were drinking in the first place. And so I love connecting with women who want to go further down the journey that way. And so we have a lot of connection tools, and I love always trying to bring those up, like level up more connection tools. So even within our group, I just started the Sober Sis channel. We use something called Marco Polo. We're just very, very connected. So when women come in, I just want them to feel like they've always got a place. Even if they just entered in to take a break, there's still always room to grow or connect.
So, as a for instance, what are some tools for somebody who is in the mommy club, right? And they do get together and they do the wine thing. Um, how do you stay in the club? What kind of tools can they have when? Because human nature, like when you go on a diet or you're trying to get fit, people are like, "Oh, stop! Don't take it so seriously."
Exactly.
Yeah, la
You can
la.
have one. Come on,
Right.
girl. It's
Right.
Friday.
So what kind of tools do you give them to handle that?
Yes, great question, Dawn. A lot of things I talk about that I think would be helpful for your listeners also are pre-deciding. You can't get in those situations, if you will, and go with the flow because the flow is going to take you right back to the drinking culture because that is the mainstream flow. So you have to really, number one, pre-decide. You can't decide once you get there and play it by ear because it won't work. And then pre-plan. I think also having an alternative drink option in your mind. If you're going out to a restaurant, if people want to follow me on Instagram at SoberSis, a lot of things that I show out there are just mocktails and alcohol-free beverages, the zero proof cocktails, what to order at a restaurant so that you really don't stand out. People really don't care what's in your drink.
Right.
I've really noticed that. I'm sure
Right.
you have too.
Yeah.
People really don't care what Dawn and Jen are drinking. They really care what they're drinking.
Yep.
And if you can get past that first 5 minutes where everyone's ordering that first round and you go in pre-decided, prepared, you know what you're going to say. There's some language that you can use that won't ostracize you or judge anyone else, because we don't want to do that. Um, that really helps. So I think tools like that to anticipate a situation before it happens, so you are prepared. There's nothing worse than getting blindsided or just hoping that it
Right.
goes one way and having no plan on how to do that. You've got to have a plan.
Right. Yes. Super important. I it just so happened that a week after I stopped drinking was my um 20th reunion, 40th
Oh
reunion. I don't
gosh,
know, high
your
school reunion. I was like, I can't believe that this is happening within a
reunion.
week. Like who
Oh,
would have that would not have been the plan. That
wow.
was very I was a fish out of water. It was the
Oh, because that talk
scariest,
about social
scariest thing.
anxiety. You're trying to
Hmm.
kind of show up who you are now, you wanna hang. Yeah, I can see that being a real challenge for sure.
I
My
must
first night not drinking on purpose, was book club.
oh my God,
I was like,
yeah.
"You gotta be kidding me. This is BYOB. Bring your own bottle because 'cause we're all gonna drink one." What?
Yeah.
And, so there's never a good time. I think that's one thing that we're saying here is there's never really a good time, like
Right.
all
Oh
stars
yeah,
align.
no.
You don't wanna wait until a certain time or where there's no reunion and no book club and no parties and no birthdays and no before you know it, there's never a time. A snowstorm. I mean,
Right. Right.
so you just have to you really have to internally decide when to draw that line in the sand.
Right. Wow. Is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with? Anything that we haven't talked about that you want to lay on the table?
Yeah, great. I think the question to ask yourself out there, ladies, men too, if you're listening, but for sure, as I work with women, is if you're up at 3 a.m. Googling, am I an alcoholic? Do I drink too much? If you're doing that, that may be a red flag, kind of a warning sign. But even if you're not there and you're just starting to feel like, this is just not my best self. It's good enough, but the wrong question is this bad enough? The right question is it good enough? Am I living a life that's good enough for me? Can I do better? Can I be more alive, more alert, more awake? Not what else has to happen? How long can I keep going down this road until I literally have to stop? So, again, don't ask yourself, is it bad enough? Ask yourself, is it good enough?
I think that's a really important distinction. Yeah, just because I'm just getting by, is that good enough for me?
Yeah, is that good
Right?
enough?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm skating. Nothing tragic is happening, so it's
yeah, just
okay.
waiting for the shoe to drop.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I really thank you for having this conversation with me. I think it's a conversation that as women we should be having more of, and we should be aware of how we're being sold to.
I
And if you still want
totally
to make
agree.
the choice to buy into it, that's fine. But do it
At
for
least
your
be educated and know what's happening when you walk in, like a Target store down here. I know y'all have Target too, but there's 26 points of purchase in Target. You're going to see, Prosecco by the blueberries. You're going to see a Cabernet by the meat. All that. And I was a marketing major, so I understand what's going on. And again, that's okay. They're doing their thing. But we
right.
as consumers, we vote with our dollars and we vote with what we put in our body. And that's our choice.
Absolutely. Absolutely 100%. I do thank you very much for
This
taking the
was
time.
great. I enjoyed our conversation so much, and I appreciate you letting me share my story with your group and just talking about it. I think like you, we just want to talk about it, make it safe for other people to do the same thing.
Absolutely. That's what every conversation I have is, if one person who needs to hear the conversation, if it reaches them, I'm good.
Yeah, me too. Me too. That's totally worth it. Yeah.
Right. Well, I thank you. Please have a really great rest of your day.
I will.
I hope that your people get their power back soon.
Yeah, we're going
'Cause
to keep praying that our power stays on because now we're kind of like the hub. We're like the place where people can come. And so, yeah, I'm going to go out there and see what's
and
happening. We've
and
got lots of firewood.
And good luck on your cleanse.
Oh yeah, thank you. I'm gonna pick the worst time. Maybe the better time though, too. Because
Maybe.
everybody, I'm so out of routine, might as well, drink my Shrabucha, which is awesome. Might as well drink that 3 times a day because that's about all I'm drinking anyway.
There you go. Thank
Yeah.
you, Jen. Have a really
Thanks,
great
Dawn.
rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.